I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a dead
nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
The Charlie Crawford Podcast is proud to partner with NRS. Don't forget to shop this destination for all things Western. NRS has everything you need from boots, hats, apparel, bits and spurs, saddles, ropes, feed, and more. Visit their flagship store in Decatur, Texas, as well as other locations in Granbury, Texas, and Wickenburg, Arizona. From your hat to your boots and everything in between. Shop NRS in-store or online at nrsworld.com. All right, everybody, I got my good friend on today, President of American Hats, Keith Mundee. Keith, thanks for coming on, partner.
Thanks for being here. I appreciate you coming all the way to Bowie, Texas.
Well, if I was a northerner, which that's exactly where I'm from, I would have probably said Bowie. I'd probably say Bowie, and then I do remember Jim Bowie.
Yeah, Jim Bowie.
All the Davy Crockett shows we've seen, the Alamo. And so this is home of Jim Bowie and the knife.
So this is where, Bowie, Texas is after Jim Bowie, and we have the world's largest Bowie knife here. So we're trying to tease you with that to get off of Highway 287 and stop and come see us here in Bowie, Texas.
Isn't it the world's biggest knife?
It's the world's largest Bowie knife, yes.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah, I love the history. It is really cool.
Yeah. And Jim Bowie was at the Alamo. So, goes back Texas history with, all of the famous names from the Alamo. I don't want to start quoting them all because I'll get some of them wrong. Somebody will call me and go, hey, he wasn't at the Alamo. That was a TV guy. So,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of history back then to be able to see that and come here and feel that. Thanks for taking me through the factory today.
Good. Well, my pleasure.
It was fascinating, all the stuff that goes behind a straw hat.
Yeah.
We have talked a little bit about the felt, and I think we were at the market, and you guys were explaining kind of where you guys get your felt, but the straw hat's fascinating.
Yeah.
All the work and how much work it goes into.
Right.
By the time you sell it, and by the time you walked me through the history of this straw hat, and then when I hit the market, I was like, yeah, that thing's had a lot of work done to it for just this stuff for only,
$200.
Right.
Well, and that's what, when we first went over $100, somebody said, well, you guys never sell another straw hat. And Keith was like, we have to make a little bit of money on them. We can't just do them for practice. And when I first walked through here, I looked at Keith Maddox and I said, are you sure you can make money doing this? That's like a lot of steps, a lot of places something can go wrong here. And he goes, yeah, he just laughed and he said, yep. He said, it's a nice little business, but you got to manage it. It's like water flowing through a hose. And, the factory process, you'll get bottlenecks and you got to go and unkink the hose in certain spots.
So when you were telling me about the straw and they start off weaving it from
hand woven, yeah.
And it starts from the crown?
Yeah.
And then works out.
The center of the crown works out to the brim. Yep.
And some of those take up to...
So the most expensive one we have is 7 days for one person to weave that. And, I couldn't do it. And we can't get them, we just can't get them. There's Panama that are made in Panama, but they're very fragile. And so we've tried Panama hats. That's an expensive Panama straw could run you $800-900. But the shantung and the poly rope and that for us is kind of our forte because our guy's going to abuse it. It's seasonal. It's meant for a summer. They're not they're not meant to keep.
Because you said there is a line of your hats that are made by poly.
Yeah, poly rope.
Poly rope.
Poly rope. And so it's just a different material as opposed to the shantung straw. and the poly rope is just thicker, tougher. And I come from the clothing industry with Miller before here, so I equate things to shirts or thread count. And so a poly rope is like an Oxford cloth. It's not a real tight weave, and so we're able to get lacquer and other things in between that thing and make that a really tough hat, whereas shantung is a tighter weave. So when we lacquer a shantung hat, we have to rub the lacquer in and kind of force it into the voids because it's a tighter thread count, tighter.
And the lacquer is what helps give it the stiffness and the water resistance, correct?
Correct. So we use
because me as a competitor, the last thing that my biggest nightmare when I was rodeoing, there's two of them. One was losing my hat, and the other one was getting turned out. Those would keep me up at night. You know, anyone who's rodeoed long enough, we've been there where, you know, the traffic was bad, and the harder you're trying to get there, you're taking back streets and you end up further away, then they're calling your name. Like, I still have those nightmares all the time, and losing my hat because my dad instilled that. Cowboys don't lose their hat.
That's right.
But when it comes to a straw hat, you better be in it. That's right. That's right.
And I did get bucked off at my hometown rodeo, so that would be my worst fear.
And so we have all been there when you're chasing one, especially at Cheyenne. You know, it probably might have rained anyway. Yeah. And so your hat's wet, straw hat's wet, it's loose, and you get up there and the front of your hat starts running up there to your crown. That is, I mean, it looks cool, you know, when it's like in a Western and you're getting chased by Indians, but not at the rodeo.
Nope.
And that is one thing I will say, your hats, they stay and keep that crease through thick or thin.
Yep. We've had a couple of them that would do that, and so we do away with that particular weave. I think Jackie brought it to our attention, one of them that flipped up on her, and we said, hey, so we really looked at that weave and we've eliminated it. You know, we just won't use that weave anymore.
So the weave and lacquer has a lot to do with.
Weave and lacquer, yeah.
Okay.
And then making sure that the viscosity of the lacquer is correct. You'd think that it's a high-tech thing, but it's not. It's a little silver cup on the end of two things, and it's got a hole in it. And they got a stopwatch, and they dip the lacquer, and when it starts running out the bottom, they hit the stopwatch, and it's got to be a certain viscosity. I don't want to tell what that is because that gives away a little bit.
Well, the viscosity reminds me of the flux capacitor that I talk about when anything of mine breaks.
Exactly. So same thing here. Same thing here. I just
right up over there by the oscillator valve.
Exactly. Yeah.
So talk about the felts, because that's really surprising me too. When, you know, we talk about the beaver that is made, and we talked about it earlier too, because one of the dumb questions, you know, that I'll have is, you know, what is it that the beaver is compared to any other animal that creates the felt hat?
So think about a beaver, you know, lives in water. And so there's two levels of fur on a beaver. There's under fur. A lot of times we refer to it as belly just because it's an easier term to remember. So we use a fair amount of under fur, and the outer layer is called the guard hair. The guard hair is thicker. It's a thicker diameter, and it's heavier. So, you know, I think we walked out there. I let you hold a 10X that was a size 7, and then you held a 1000X that was a 7 1/2. And the 7 1/2 should be heavier than the size 7. And I said, which one's heavier? And you go, oh, wow, this one's over. So you picked the 10X, and it's because of the hair, the content of hair that's in a 10X. Used to be, and, you know, we're not, the X thing gets way complicated, way blown out of proportion because there is no standard, okay? So it used to be a 10X was 100% because it's 10 times. So 10X was the best you could ever get. And 5X was 50% beaver, and the rest of it was something else, rabbit or whatever. And then a 3X was like a 30X. Well, because retailers wanted more X's and as manufacturers, people wanted to sell more hats. And Keith had a retailer come to him and say, I want to sell a 20X hat, but I want it to be a 10X body. And Keith said, you know, I'd love to do that, but I can't do that, because they were wanting to buy a specific price point. And so Keith has stayed true to that. So it gets confusing because you think 100X, you can't get anything better than 100X, but our 100X is predominantly going to be guard hair. And so it's a great hat. Guard hair makes a good hat, but it's heavier and it doesn't have the feel. So when you get to a 200X, it's a blend of guard hair and under hair. When you go to a 500X, it's all under hair or belly. And you go to a 1000X, it's belly or under hair and mink. And so that's very light, but yet it's like, again, goes back to the thread count on sheets. That under fur is smaller hair, smaller diameter hair, and it all, when it starts to felt, it all gets intertwined. And when it's intertwined, then it repels rain. It can take more punishment. If you got like a 10X, that's our lowest quality hat, it would be 10% beaver and the rest of it is hair, rabbit, Argentina hair, Patagonia hair. So it's not going to stand up to the punishment that your 1000X would. But you're going to probably get a little squeamish with the price on a 1000X if you wear it in the rain. I wear mine in the rain, but I'm in the cowboy hat business, so I go everywhere with a 1000X hat. And but I can't sell a Cadillac if I'm driving a Kia.
One of the coolest things I ever heard was sayings I ever heard was from Steve Purcell one time, and he said, "Well, cool shit ain't cheap, and cheap shit ain't cool."
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Don't sweat the petty stuff, and don't pet the sweaty stuff.
I like that one. I like it. Well, talk about where the felt comes from, because that was interesting to me as well.
There's really one spot that dominates the fur business, and that there's a town in Portugal outside of Porto, Portugal, and it's like a 5th generation hat manufacturing or body manufacturing facility. And so they buy skins on the open market, and that's in typically North America, Canada, so even Ukraine, but they'll buy skins on the open market. Well, this outfit buys 70% of the beaver skins that are trapped or brought to this market. And then the rest of it is purchased by people now making coats and other things. But there's beaver hair, there's rabbit hair, there's mink, there's fox, there's chinchilla, there's all types of animal hairs, but they buy 70% of the beaver. The guy that buys it has a factory that removes the hair from the skin, and that the hair then has to go through a process of, for lack of a better term, dry cleaning and then sorting. So the hair then is in a big, giant, long shaker box. I mean, it's got to be 25 feet long, and it's elevated off the ground. And this box is shaking, and it's got air flowing through it. So the heavy stuff goes to the bottom, and the light stuff stays up on the top. And if you look in it, it's just like, cotton floating in there. And that's the really good hair. And then the next level is the guard hair. And then there's debris and junk and other things on the bottom that gets discarded. So he removes the hair from the skin, and then the skin gets used for wallets, little money clip, a belt, all kinds of small leather type items. And then he takes that fur and bales it. It goes like in a big plastic bale, almost like a bale of cotton. So if you make your own bodies, you probably buy your fur there. But there's not very many people that do that. And then most of us buy the raw body from his other company there in Portugal. They make raw felt bodies. It's not a body you could wear. It's a raw felt body. And what we do is we have a certain recipe that makes a great hat. And so I just had dinner with, him here at the Dallas market, and I asked him, kind of where we still fit. He said, you don't buy as much as another company. There's another company that buys a few more bodies than we buy, maybe 15,000 more bodies per year. But the bodies we buy are more expensive. And so we basically have a deal with him that everything we order, we're going to buy. Because he'll make it. And if we said, oh, hey, we don't need it, we're good. He's like, I'm stuck with this now because I don't have anybody else that wants it wants that level of a body. He'd have to discount it. So,
It's interesting.
Yeah. So we all pretty much get our bodies from the same place. There's another outfit that's here in the U.S. It's just not the same
Quality.
Yeah, same level of quality. And so
how do the color of the hats kind of mold into when you guys are get them? Because you got so many different. Yeah. I've never seen so many different colors of what you guys have. How does the coloring take effect?
That blows me away because they actually have a little laboratory there in their factory, and you can give them a color swatch, or they have color swatches, but you could actually. So they use 3 colors. They use blue, green, and red to make all these colors. So when you look at their dyeing room, they've got a little light up on top. It's blue, green, and red. And so they mix those blue, green, and red to get all of the colors that we have on hats and then like a pure white hat that would be bleached.
The white hat is probably the most prettiest hat.
Oh, yeah. Keith Maddox loved the white hat.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I love the silver belly is one of my favorite as a kid, but the white hat you guys have, I mean, that looks like, the good guy just showed up.
Yep. And, a white hat's not real practical necessarily because it's going to, every time you nick it or get your hand on it, you're going to get it, a little bit dirty. Keith Maddox loved a pure white hat. So when he passed September 4th of 2019, we had his celebration of life October 4th of 2019. And at that point, I made a decision that I was going to wear a white hat. So I continue to this day to wear a white hat, predominantly when I'm like at NFR or
the dressy situations.
The Dallas
and you're going to be in
market.
front of places.
I wear, when I wear a white hat, I'm wearing it in honor of Keith Maddox.
Yeah, and it's just such a classy looking hat. It really is. It's one of them. You look at it, you can't quit looking at it. Yeah. And you're right. It's hard to go rope outside for me to wear that white hat. Like that's the, when we go to galas or we go to the NFR and we go to dressy situations, it's hard. I grab that thing every time. Yeah. It's a beautiful hat.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but for me, the white hat honors Keith Maddox.
That's cool.
Yeah.
We were in the factory and you were getting a phone call, I think, from Cole Hauser to get some hats going. And looks like we're going to be making some more hats possibly going forward for some TV shows that are really exciting. Even though Yellowstone came to an end, it sounds like Taylor Sheridan's got some more ideas, to go forward.
I would never count Taylor Sheridan out. If I had money to bet on one person, I'd bet it on Taylor Sheridan. And like Keith Maddox bet it all on American Hat, I'd probably slide it all in the middle and say I just bet it all on Taylor Sheridan. He is probably the greatest storyteller of our time. And what blows me away about Taylor Sheridan is how he gets immersed in whatever it is. And so he becomes a subject matter expert on things. So if you were to take,
1883.
Yeah, the 1983, the Western, the history, or even Yellowstone, he made that extremely authentic. And some of the guys that ended up, we have a friend, Ethan Lee. Forey's a friend, but Ethan Lee, there's some of the guys on there are horse trainers. I mean, Ethan was a wrangler on the show, so he was the guy that was teaching the actors how to ride. And Taylor Sheridan just said, hey, I'm going to put you in the show. Taylor Sheridan will take somebody who's unknown, but if you are the real deal, then he figures out how to insert you into the show.
You can almost see your personality and find out where that needs to fit in the role that needs played, huh?
Yeah.
That's what it looks like when you look at all those people.
And now Landman's that's another whole set of...
Billy Bob Thornton, my goodness, how good is he in that show? Absolutely. The roughneck roles that he plays and how he has them talking. And I love how he did with Yellowstone. He did it with the Environmentalist. I love it how he does on Landman, too, where the lawyer, and he's kind of walking her through, between clean energy, and he's like, bull crap. He talks about what all these things take, but he does it in such a good perspective. He brings that viewpoint, and then he brings this viewpoint. No one's hating each other.
No.
It's a conversation, and you can see where her eyes kind of get lit up because She's in the real world of it.
Yeah.
It's not a history. You're not in the classroom getting preached to. You're in the real. You're seeing it now.
Yeah. Like Billy Bob, when she said all these windmills going to provide. He said, baby, these windmills ain't for the town. We need them because there's no power out here. Those windmills are running these oil wells.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Enlightening.
Exactly. Yeah, just pure genius. And I love what I feel like he's done to the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yellowstone has made cowboy cool again on another level. I remember talking to some people, and they talked about the quick spurge, I think maybe in the 70s, maybe after, what was it, John Travolta movie?
Urban Cowboy.
They said there was a slight kind of spurge right there in the industry, and then it kind of went, it was fast. I think it sounded like maybe, the world's best, Lonesome Dove, the world's best movie in the whole world. Another one, there was a pretty good spurge right there as well. But they talk about it's been so, the Western industry now has been growing at such a rate, it hasn't peaked yet.
Crazy.
And it's crazy too, because I think you think about the movies, they don't last long. 2-hour movie or Urban Cowboy probably. A decent season with it was a long movie. I don't forgot exactly how long it is. I know you can drive from Las Vegas, Nevada to Reno, and it'll be over. So what is that, 6 hours? I used to watch it there from that too. Because if you drive off the road, you just get right back on. It's nice and flat,
Nothing to hit.
And so that was a little bit longer, but the seasons that he has, it just keeps you engaged and keeps going. And the characters, between Cole Hauser that we was talking about earlier, Rip on that show, just the standouts that he has. But man, what has that done for cowboy hats?
Off the charts. Taylor Sheridan, and between Taylor Sheridan and the Cowboy Channel coming on.
The Cowboy Channel, I agree. That needs to be another.
Between those two, has put this particular business in a different category than we were before. When I first came here, we were probably making, maybe 300 hats a day. And, and we could be 4 to 6 weeks out. And now we make 1,000 hats a day, and we're a year and a half out.
That's so crazy.
And that is, but,
so at least you're fat. I think during COVID, or maybe a little bit after COVID, I think you were 2 years out.
Yeah,
so you're making a little headway. Now you're about a year and a half.
Yeah, we're getting a little better. But
wild.
So the goal here, we fought off the urge to make a bunch more hats and open a bunch more stores. I think we have 700 stores on a waiting list that want to get opened and sell American hats, but it's just not practical. It's not in the cards at this juncture, to be honest with you. We're making 1,000. We're not going to cut quality for quantity. This doesn't sound like a lot, but we made 16 more felt hats a day in 23 than we did in 22. Somebody goes, well, big whoop-de-doo, 16 more felt hats a day. But times 239 days, so that adds up to be a lot of hats.
Yeah.
And so that's our goal. That's what we're tracking, and so now if this year I can, on top of the 16, if I can make another, 15 or so, we'll just keep getting closer and closer. But it's like eating an elephant, just one bite at a time, and never, ever, ever look at the elephant, because it's just
overwhelming.
It's just overwhelming.
Yeah.
And we're just making great hats. So we have a saying here: bigger's not better, better's better. And our focus is just to make great hats. And if you get mad at us because we didn't ship you hats, we're sorry. We hate to do that to you, but we're not going to ship something that we wouldn't personally wear. I tell people all the time, it's not hard to find a cheaper hat. That's going to be easy. Don't worry about that. Hard part comes when you got to wear it. And so that has become, kind of our way of doing it. And if in your buying decision, if price is 1 and quality is number 3 on the list, you probably don't need an American hat.
I really liked the pyramid that you showed me earlier too, like the peak of what you're trying to do that basically just kind of filters out the masses from there.
Right. The top of that pyramid is really, for us, is the Working Ranch Cowboys Association. Those are to me what they, I hate the term real cowboy. I hate that term because it's different, means different things to different people. But those are the guys that are working on a ranch, that are doing it every day, that are actually managing cattle and feeding America.
Feeding America.
So
absolutely.
But that's a small segment. I mean, there's not a lot of true guys like that are doing it. I mean, if I just sold hats to those guys, I'd be starving.
Well, that's what I get that a lot of times too. Obviously I go to the airports 40 some times a year, and are you a real cowboy? I'll get that all the time, and I'll be the first to tell them, like, man, the real cowboys you don't see. You can't see them from the road.
Yeah, how do you? Oh, that's how you answer it.
I just kind of the real cowboys are the ones that put food on the table. I'm an arena cowboy.
Yeah.
I'm a wannabe cowboy.
See,
I'd love to be that guy out there that's doing God's work, that's doing stuff for us, and being out there, the freedom. It's so romantic. I mean, now I get to go do it when that's my outlet.
Yeah.
I get to go. It's not often, but I get to go do it, and that's the coolest. That's when I feel like I am a cowboy.
Yeah.
But I know I'm not.
But when you're taking a bunch of military guys to go experience that, and it's life-changing for them, they don't ever get to do it, and they only see it on TV or in a magazine. But I disagree with you, and I just saw a thing with Joe Beaver, and they're interviewing him, says, well, do you consider yourself a real cowboy? He goes, well, what does that mean? It has a different definition for different people. But at the very top of this pyramid is what I call, that's my target. That's what I'm trying to make a hat for that guy. If it works for him, it'll work for the rest of us. And so the next level is probably rodeo cowboys, and then the next level is going to be PBR guys. And when I say PBR guys, those guys are specialists. They are, phenomenal athletes that get on a plane and fly and ride a bull, and the stands are full with people like a NASCAR thing, wanting to see or waiting to see if something wrecks. So there's PBR. And then there's all the reiners and trainers and the guys that are working with horses and training horses and all of that. But there's not a big spectator thing. That's a participatory thing. Those guys are cowboys. To me, they're cowboys. And then there's a whole segment on the bottom of this pyramid that's wide, a wide segment. And that's the people that I call the people that love the Western lifestyle. So they're either wanting to emulate that reiner trainer, or they're fans of that PBR guy, or they're watching professional rodeo, or they're looking at a magazine and going, now that's a cowboy. And so, I don't sell hats based on your zip code, where you live or what you do. I sell hats based on your condition of your heart and your head. And so if you live in New York City and your boots have never been on dirt, but you get an elevator and go to some penthouse suite and lay your head on the pillow at night and dream of a bright blue sky, wide open spaces, and white puffy clouds, man, you might be a cowboy. It is in your heart, it is in your head. And so you have permission to wear a hat. Everybody in the world has permission to wear a baseball cap. Not everybody gets to wear a cowboy hat. And so it's not about where you live. You don't have to live it just to love it. If you love it, welcome to the family. So,
yeah, and it's a great industry. It's when you talk about the branding that we have for the military, and, you can see just being that cowboy, when you're talking about that demographic being the top, it's so appealing because it does something for your soul. When you get out there and watching the sun come up, and if you're on a good horse, being able to just see wildlife, see whatever clouds are forming, or if it's a blue sky, getting those cows in, hearing the bellowing and just seeing how fat and juicy and healthy they are, and sorting the cows off the calves, and watching how that is designed to make a good horse work good, and just the camaraderie you have with those people around you. And it's great for the soul. The cowboy industry, I'm so glad, has kind of been seen as, it's getting really attractive, in my opinion, I think, for a lot of people because they're tired of the woke.
Mm-hmm.
We still stand up for our flag. We take our hat off during the national anthem. We bow our heads to pray. We still put God first before we start the rodeo. And that's been lost in so many other industries that I think that's what's made this culture great, this industry great. And I think, in my opinion, what the cowboy hat represents.
That's right. I got a little upset when the professional, I've always been an athlete or a fan of professional athletes. And so I got very upset when they started kneeling. And I kept thinking, well, if we're teaching the youth of our country that to disrespect our flag or to not be patriotic, man, if we get in a tight spot and have to go to war with somebody, who's gonna fight for us? I mean, how's that gonna go? So Patrick Gotch with God rest his soul, with Cowboy Channel, I said, Patrick, if you will air the national anthem and the opening prayer, then I'll sponsor that. And he goes, well, what does that look like? And I said, well, I don't want to get in the way. A great friend of mine, Jenna Paulette, who probably does the best national anthem ever, her grandfather said, no, sweetheart, this song ain't about you. Don't mess this one up. This is very important. So she sings it straight up. And Billy Minnick.
And talk about a cowgirl.
Yeah. And Billy Minnick told her one day, honey, that's probably the best rendition of the national anthem I've ever heard. And coming from Billy Minnick, that's something.
That's a good.
So long and short, so we started sponsoring national anthem and the opening prayer. And so I like to say now that I'm really not selling cowboy hats as much as I'm selling the national anthem, the opening prayer, respect for our military. That's why I'm involved with your Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, the American Celebration, to help, soldiers coming back. And then respect for our first responders, which is what you're doing as well. And then the last piece of that is kids, youth. So we've become the national or the official hat of the National Junior High School Rodeo and the National High School Rodeo. And some people have told me, well, that's just a small group of kids. And I'll just use rough numbers to make it easy, but if there's 10,000 kids in that, so that ain't enough kids. Well, but you get 60,000 because you get mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, brother, sister. And every year it's 25% new because the seniors graduate, the freshmen come up. And every 4 years, it's all new. So branding is a Western term. And what's the goal of a rancher? You want to brand some calves. So that is what American Hat's been doing for the last 12 years, is branding calves. And now we're seeing those calves, the likes of a Shad Mayfield and a Haven Medjid and a Riley Webb, and those guys, come to the top. A Lefty Holman, man, that's a great young man, and he just lives life.
Yeah,
he embodies a phrase that Keith Maddox used to say: "If you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much room." And so, Lefty, the fruit is out on the limb a little bit, and he'll just let it all hang out there. So I'm a Lefty Holman fan. I like Rocker Steiner. I know a lot of people are, he's a little maybe edgy to some people. No, I don't think. I think, I like Rocker Steiner.
Does what he wants.
Be who you are. I'm a Rocker Steiner fan. I'm sorry.
I was a big fan of his dad, and I got to know Rocker a little bit, just because I know his dad and I know his mom, and great guy.
Great family.
Great family.
Great family. Super competitive. I love that about them.
They're winners at whatever they do. They're all in.
That's exactly
They're passionate.
Right. Yeah. Winners run with winners,
And that passion they have, it's my opinion, is what's created them to be so successful.
And,
a lot of passion.
And Rocker's going to bring eyes to the sport of rodeo that we wouldn't normally see. He's great for our sport. So say what you want to say. I've heard all the other stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be a Lefty Holman, Rocker Steiner fan. That's what I'm telling you.
The tradition is tough because, like you say, you're trying to keep things tradition, because that is how it came from. But in the same sense, is we're also still trying to grow the sport.
That's right.
So you're going to deal with different personalities. You're going to deal with some different stuff. And I'm with you. I enjoy watching the different personalities. Mm-hmm. It keeps it interesting.
That's right.
And I enjoy your guys' creed that you guys have as a company. The God, faith, country. That's one of the things that I would say that has helped me kind of have the idea to be able to do what we do with the military, with Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, and thanks to your help, being able to do so many things for these guys, because it was one of those things where I always had a passion for military. My dad was a Marine, so that's where the blood came from.
My
was
dad
from
Navy,
him.
Yeah, so, yeah.
And so I always had that, and to see what you're talking about, the kneeling, the disrespect, just burnt me to my core. And it's not like I would be able to run for office.
yeah. I went. Nobody look at my closet.
I don't know if anybody's watched any of the hearings of. RFK is probably one of the nicest guys in the world, and they're just trying to trash him. Yeah. So not really wanting to go that ugly route.
Nope, me either.
Little too old to serve.
Yeah.
I wished I probably would have.
Yep.
It would have done me a great service of discipline, and would have learned early.
But we were probably, I just missed the end of Vietnam, and so but that wasn't a very popular war, and that was a tough situation.
It's a tough time for our country, for sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But come 9/11, I'd have joined right back up, but just I was too old.
But I think that when I watched the movie American Sniper, it really did, when it told Chris Kyle when he kept wanting to get deployed, and he's like, well, I think there's plenty of people here that could use help. That really resonated. That's when I was like, man, there is some things we could do, and so to be able to kind of give the guys that we look up to, that keep us from speaking other languages and that keep our countries, our streets safe, everything. It was like, we kind of tried to figure out how many of them roped, and turns out after this year, 380 teams in the military first responder roping. So there's a bunch of them. So then just to give them that outlet to be able to give back, because I love this country. There's no better country.
That's right.
Now, I love a lot of the things that happen in my government? No. But this country is something that I'll always stand up for. And for the guys that stand up for this country, it's so cool to be able to have a team with you guys and American Hat that have the same creed and beliefs, and it's an easy fit to be able to help these guys out, because when they put that American hat on, man, I'm telling you, it's cool to watch the smile on their face.
Nice. Well, America is not a perfect country by any means, but when when the dew hits the fan, we're the first one they call, and we're the first one to show up. Ironically, I was watching a show this morning, a Mike Glover, who has field, I'm trying to think of the name of it, Field Cast Survival or something. He's great, former Green Beret, but he was interviewing a guy named Jim Force. And Jim Force, I had the good fortune to meet him on the Charlie Russell ride. Jim Force is 27 years in the SEAL teams, 27 years. So 7 years with like maybe SEAL Team 1, and then 20 years, SEAL Team 6, the Gold Squadron. And so that's the guy that he's now he's retired. How do you go from that to being retired? That's what you're dealing with, these guys. So their adrenaline level, their excitement level is maxed all the way to the right, full 10. You're set on 10, and then you come back here and you got to go to a level 3. And the things that you're good at are kind of illegal. You can't just kill people here. So they have a hard time making the transition from 10 to 3. And what's my purpose is like Jim Force was saying, or Jim Foreman. I'm sorry, I was confusing him with Bud Force. But Jim Foreman was saying, he said, I had to find my purpose. I'm struggling with, what's my purpose here? But those are the real heroes, and us, like you, it's our job to figure out how to help them do that. And so hats off to you for doing
well. Thanks for being a part of it with me. It's been fun to watch, just to be able to, God give us certain talents, and to be able to feel like the talent that he gave me, I was able to use it in a way that helped people. So, I mean, I never in a million years would have thought that, but here we are. So it was cool.
It's working.
Yeah.
So how what's the dollar number you've given back to?
I think it's 1.2 is what is, I think after last year was our 5th year.
Yeah.
So it keeps growing every year.
1.2 million. And, I know that, we're given to a couple of different foundations that are very well deserved.
I think it's our 5th home we've helped build. And we just went over the other day to the Fort Worth and donated $20,000 to Brotherhood for the Fallen. So We also helped out Lane Aiken, one of his guys that he had on the police force that got tragically murdered in line of duty.
He lived here in Bowie.
Yep. And we helped with him and his family. And so, yeah, just being able to, that's a strong one for me. Is I think it's interesting the width that we have with this foundation. For one, helping these guys go from 10 to 3 and go in the middle with the rope in, giving them an outlet, things like that. Helping people who are disabled that come back from the war, being able to make sure we have a home for them to build.
Right.
But, man, a big part of it to me, too, is the family. The family sacrifice. There's a lot of sacrifice that happens while they're gone, and then now they're not there. So they've got to figure out now what to do. And to be able to step in there with this foundation and be able to, we can't take away the pain, but at least we can take away some of the bills that stack up and help with that till all the paperwork gets done and they get their benefits.
I had a conversation with a guy yesterday. We could have talked for 3 or 4 hours. We went probably 45 minutes. His name is Chet Ingram, and his son, Gage Ingram, was a Navy SEAL who was killed. And Chet is, they got the Gage Ingram Foundation, Nathan Gage Ingram Foundation. But he has an interesting tattoo, and it's the GPS coordinates of the spot where his son lost his life, and it's right over his heart. And he's telling me about that. He kind of got choked up. And that got me choked up because when you think about that, you've lost your son to this thing. So not only did Nathan Gage Ingram serve our country admirably, but Chet Ingram and Gage's wife, and they served and sacrificed just as well.
Yeah. Yeah, to be not only a wife and things like that and kids, but man, that's to me, my worst nightmare is outliving my kids.
Oh, no kid.
I want them to live way past me.
Me
so,
too.
Can imagine.
Well, we were talking a little bit about that Jim Shockey video. If if you're listening to this and you want to hear something that's kind of profound, in my opinion, Jim Shockey's got a video out on YouTube, and it's called Gone.
Gone.
Gone. And it's like he's telling you, we're all going to suffer some profound sadness in our life when we lose a loved one, a father, mother, spouse, whatever, kid, God forbid. But you cannot let that steal the joy from today. You got to keep living. You got to keep living.
Can't let it steal the present.
And so sometimes we get maybe concerned with our own mortality, and so you miss today worrying about what may happen tomorrow or 10 years from now.
That hadn't even happened yet.
Man, live for today. That
was a good one.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, I remember you was talking about that. You said Tough Cooper was in here.
Yeah.
And he said he was talking about that stuff, and that's a pretty cool story because I'm a Tough Cooper fan.
Me too.
He's one of your guys' first endorsees. Is that correct?
Our very first here.
Very first one.
I had him at Cinch. I signed him when he was 17. One of our marketing girls came and said, "You got to see this guy. I mean, he is the next it."
Yep.
And I pride myself on, I don't know how to define it. I just know it when I see it. And I'll never forget going to NFR, his first NFR, and watching him come up on the concourse, and the crowd just sucked right to him. And I said, okay, get him signed. And we had him, kind of on a, normal little, easy little deal. And at that point, I was talking to somebody, and I said, what does he need? He said, well, he needs a truck and a trailer, and got to find a way to get up and down the road. So we went and bought Trevor at Cinch. We went and bought Trevor's motorhome, toter home, whatever you want to call it, and then we wrapped it with Cinch on it, and then he had a bumper pole trailer. We wrapped that with Cinch on it as well, and we referred to it as the Trojan Horse Tour because it was a Cinch billboard, and we were excluded from having any presence at a professional rodeo.
At that time,
we couldn't.
Absolutely.
Cinch couldn't be at the rodeo. We couldn't have a logo anywhere where you can be seen, and so instead we pulled the Tough Cooper Cinch mobile, the Trojan Horse, in the back gate, and Tough strategically parked it so that people could see it, and so that was the beginning. And then so I had him at Cinch at the age of 17 and going on, and then when I came over here, he contacted me and said, hey, would you ever be interested? So I met with Keith and Susan Maddox, and we weren't doing endorsing. Our last endorsee was Lane Frost before Tough Cooper. And so Keith goes, well, I'm not a big one on, this whole endorsee thing and da-da-da-da. And I said, well, look at it as like, would you hire this guy for X amount of dollars to work for you for the year? And he goes, yeah, I would. And I said, well, let's hire him. And he said, let's do it. And so we did. And we've had him now, I've been here 15 years. So we've had him the whole time. And he's just a great kid. Now he's got a,
how cool is that to see him from 17 getting started to where he's at now, where
married.
Said he came in your office and had his little girl with him and had the diaper bag and just him.
Yeah.
Just being dad.
Him in true fashion came to visit.
Cool of a name is that.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And she is a doll. She looks just like her mama. And, he was, and what an attentive dad. And, we're talking about the future and, what he's shooting for. And I told him, I said, Tough, I'm more concerned with what's under the hat, not with what's around your waist.
Mm-hmm.
So let's not lose sight of that. You don't have to stack up the gold buckles for me. I'm more interested in championing life. And if that's who you are and you're somebody that these young people could look up to, that's more important to me.
It's so fun for me to see too, is, when them guys, when the gold buckles is not there anymore, the limelight was strong, the gold buckles were there, and then to see him, now he's still as good as now as he's ever been, but to be able to see now, like, where he gets his joy, the passion now that he has being a dad. And it's so cool to be able to feel that. And there's so many, I was watching a documentary with Aaron Rodgers. I'm a fan of his, but I was watching the documentary and he just looked so lost. And you're like, you could see that, if you're just chasing this and this is what makes you happy, you're like, I could see how a guy could get lost. I think God created being able to have kids to where you almost find your greater meaning.
Absolutely. And our mutual friend, Coach John Baxter over at Fresno State, just had a grandbaby. And I sent him a text, and I said, man, congratulations, Coach. I said, this little girl will give you the highest of highs, higher than winning the Rose Bowl. And then he sent back a long thing, and it said, your kids can provide you with the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And I said, ooh, I left off the lowest of lows. I was trying to be positive. But if you think about that, I mean, you can really only be as happy as, if you've got a kid that's struggling, that's going to cap your happiness because you're always thinking about that kid that's struggling.
Yeah.
And, but the thing I get the most proud of is my daughters. I've got a daughter in Boise, Idaho that just turned 40, and she's been a successful, businesswoman, entrepreneur, and got 3 fabulous boys. Her husband, I tell people all the time, if they had a Build-A-Bear for a son-in-law, that's exactly what I would have built,
That's good.
As far as I'm concerned, he's dang near perfect. He makes me look pretty ragged on the edges. And then my youngest daughter had gone through a little rough road. She got married, and they married a guy that was in the oil industry, and they ended up not making it. But I'm pretty proud of the fact that she's living here with us, and she's a 911 dispatcher here in the city of Bowie and going to the police academy.
Awesome.
And so I am now kind of helping her, my wife and I, helping her raise a 14, 13-year-old, my granddaughters. And I tell my granddaughters when I take them to school, I said, I don't have to take you girls to school. I get to take you to school. And so it gives me a little second chance at it. And then watching my daughter, who's 38, the youngest one, work her ever-loving tail off. She goes to the police academy from 4 to 10, and then she leaves Wichita Falls at 10, comes to Bowie at 11, sleeps in her car for an hour, goes to work at midnight, and gets off at 8 o'clock in the morning and does it again. That's why we had to step in to help her get through that. But being a single mom, you just can't make it in this day and age with the price of, everything it takes. And so we were concerned that our grandkids were going without. And then, but her ex-husband now has bought a home here in Bowie and stepping up and being a great dad.
Awesome.
The other night, the girls were doing their homework at the dining room table, and I went in to say, "Hey, do you guys need any help?" And they got Dad on FaceTime, and he's walking them through their homework. And he's he's working in Midland, Texas, and has a week off a month. And then when he's off for a week, he's Mr. Mom. I mean, he takes them to school. He comes in the morning in our house and makes them lunch, and and that's Terry and I. We get a week off because we normally do that,
right?
But he comes in the house in the morning and makes them lunch and takes them to school that week, and it's really stepped up. So I'm proud of both of them, even though their marriage didn't work, and that was a tough time in our life watching that happen.
Yeah, I'll bet.
So too much of that. But,
I've always heard too, it's so dang hard because you can't keep them from falling, but you just got to figure out how to pick them back up.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I bet it probably keeps everything kind of young at the house again to have.
Oh my goodness!
Have those kids there running in and out, huh?
Yes. Oh my goodness! And it's just been like I said, we don't have to. We get to.
Mm-hmm.
The other day, my wife's getting up early. I'm a 5:30. My wife's 6. She don't like the fact that I get up 30 minutes early because it wakes her up. But I try to get something done in the gym before the girls before that all happens. And then I take them to school at 7:15. And then from there I come home, shower, go to the post office, get the mail for the factory, and then come in. So Susan Maddox has been phenomenal in allowing me to do that, have that schedule. But I told my wife the other day because I look a little tired, and I said, "Baby, this is hard, but it's worth it.
It's worth it.
It's worth it.
It's worth it." So when did American Hats start? Like when, who?
Bubba Silver.
It's a big history. You told me about.
Yeah, it's an old company. Bubba Silver started it in Houston, Texas in 1915.
Houston, Texas in 1915.
A port had just gone in Houston. They just put the port in there. And so it was a way where he could get, some raw material. And he started it. And so Bubba Silver had it for many, many years. And that Bill and Billy George bought it from Bubba Silver. And I'm not sure the exact year. I really know so Keith and Susan Maddox, Keith Maddox, always wore a cowboy hat and was considered the best of the best. He was a Tony Lama salesman, and like the Tony Lama salesman during the heyday there, the Urban Cowboy Day. I mean, they wore suits, and he's got checks in there on the wall, $30,000 in commissions for a week in the 70s. And so when Justin boots started coming on strong, the Tony Lama reps all decided, well, we're going to kind of set them back a little bit, and they all went down and bought Lincoln Continentals. And Keith Maddox bought a Bill Blast Blue Lincoln Continental. He said, I really didn't want one, but it was our way of telling the Justin guys, hey, we're still on top of the hill. We're still it. And so Keith Maddox was a legend in the Western business. So he tried buying it in the mid-90s, Keith and Susan, and they made a deal. And they gathered the money, they got some investors, and, it was a $18 to $20 million deal. Went back down and said, okay, we're ready to do this. And Bill and Billy said, we changed our mind. We think we're going to give it to our kids. And so Susan tells it that it was a quiet ride home from Houston back to Fort Worth, and she was concerned about the people who manufactured the truck and whether that steering wheel was going to hold up to the pressure. She thought he was going to pull the steering wheel off, not losing his temper, but just very disappointed. Mm-hmm. And so that caused them to go look for a building in Fort Worth, Texas, where they could start their own thing. He says, I'm going to do my own. They're not going to sell it to me. I'm going to do my own. And so that then were the seeds to the Best Hat Store. And so they bought a little feed store there in Fort Worth, Texas, right on 28th and Main, near the stockyard.
Anyone that's been to the stockyards knows exactly where that little store is.
Yeah. And he decided to name it, the Best Hat Store. And, when you first think about it, well, that's not really that catchy of a name. And he said, you think about it, if you're a tourist and you come to the Fort Worth stockyards and you go, hey, where's the Best Hat Store? You go right up the road right there. And so that was his.
Kind of a catchy little tune then, right
that
there.
Was,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
that was his thing. And there were times, we've got a guy that's working here, our production manager, and there were times when they just had one or two people in the store, and sales for the day might be $300, $400, $500. Those days are over now. I mean, she's got 6 full-time guys in there, and that one store will sell more hats than about 190 of our other top stores combined.
So when did he finally get to buy American Hat?
So 2003, he had a salesman that was selling him American hats for that store. He knew they were good hats, and he wanted that straw hat, that Bangora, predominantly because it had that petroleum-based lacquer on it, and he wore them. And so his salesman come in one day and said, man, I think they went out of business. And so the bank, the 2 kids that Bill and Billy George had given it to, couldn't get along. They had a mediator working between them. And so they basically kind of run it in the grounds, what I understand. And the bank called the note. Well, so from having investors and all this and the other thing, Keith was able to go down there and he knew where they banked because he, had done the research and stuff. And he went straight to the bank and said, hey, what's the deal on American Hat Company? And they said, well, we called the note. And he says, well, what do I need to do to pay that note and own it? And they give him a number, and he said, okay. And he was able to write a check for that.
So he was able to do it without the investors, where now he's 100% the owner.
Yeah.
So it did turn out in a pretty positive direction.
Absolutely worked out way better.
Yeah.
Way better. Well, yeah, way better. And then moved it here to Bowie, Texas, where the climate's not as
So it was in Houston. So he moved it up here.
Yeah. It was in Houston, then Conroe.
Okay.
When he bought it, it was in Conroe. And then he worked down there for a little bit, and the humidity was terrible. The building was hot and humid, and just a huge building. It was just not conducive to what he was trying to develop. And we made a lot of maxi felt hats. That's not a great quality hat. It's a wool hat, but we made it in multiple colors to match the Rockies jeans and the Justin boots. Because at that time, the colored jeans, colored boots, colored hat, all that had to match. And so we used the same Pantones, or American did at the time, that we were using for Rockies jeans. So, but the Bangora was the big thing. So in the Urban Cowboy days, they had, 600,000-700,000 Bangoras on a shelf, and couldn't get them fast enough. So I say all of that to say, so Keith then moves it from Conroe to here. And so
what was the reason for here?
This is a better, drier climate. Plus he lived up here. He lived in Keller. And what happened was, this building that we're sitting in right now used to be a Hager slack factory. And Keith Maddox, one of his best friends, John Swafford, John's wife, Carla, who owned the title company here in town. And Carla really didn't know Keith all that well, but she was on the economic development department. And so John said, hey, you might want to come up here and look at this building. I think that the city of Bowie will work with you and maybe help you to move up here. So he did. And the economic development department of Bowie, Texas has been one of our greatest partners. They have been, it's a fabulous group of people. And, at the time and then we had a fire come through here. So we had a fire. So he lost $13.5 million in raw material that were in ocean-going containers in our parking lot here. This parking lot was this command center for the fire department. So it was full of fire trucks and everything, and they were fighting a grass fire. But we lost all of those raw bodies.
What year was that?
2005. And so we lost all the raw bodies.
And what year did he move here?
2003.
He moved here move the company here to 2003?
And then 2005, we had a fire.
In 2005, you had a fire.
Yep.
Man, that's a tough one.
Yep. And so his dream of American Hat Company, kind of went up in smoke. I mean, we didn't have fire damage, but we had smoke damage. a lot of smoke damage here. And, a lesser man would have given up, to be honest with you. And I think in the true cowboy Western spirit, I mean, I wasn't here, but I could see him in my mind's eye just tilt his hat back on his head a little bit and shove all of his chips to the middle of the table. And he said, let's bet it all. I want to bet it all on American Hat Company. So he was all in terms of mortgaging his house that was paid off, in terms of his retirement account and, borrowing money against that.
And this is to get to restructure. To buy more raw material. He was maybe a little bit underinsured because he had got such a good deal on it. So if you buy it for, he had what was valued at $13.5 million in raw material, he didn't end up having to pay $13.5 million for it. So he had it undervalued a little bit on the insurance. But the fire was a negligent situation. So anyway, so long story short, the fire was a giant setback, but he fought and clawed his way back. And I believe he said at one point in time, Susan had said, honey, what are we doing? I mean, they're trying to make payroll every week. And, is this worth it? Should we just give up? And he said, baby, so we landed on the shore and we burnt the ships. He said, we don't have no way back. We're all in. There's no plan B. And this is it. She's like, okay, well, let's put her head down. Let's pin her ears back and let's get after it. And that's what he did. And so him and his wife, fought their way back. And I sit here as the beneficiary of them taking a chance. And had it not worked for them, they wouldn't be where, Susan wouldn't be where she's at right now. If you're interested in coming to a clinic this year, my 2025 clinic schedule is posted on charlycrawford.training. Go there and see if we are headed to an arena near you. If you're wanting to host a clinic, I have a few dates available. March 7th through 9th, March 28th through 30th, May 30th through June 1st, July 11th through 13th, August 29th through 31st, September 12th through the 14th, September 26th through the 28th. My October is open, and November. All the details and the easy sign-up form can be found on my website under the Clinics tab. If you have any questions, email me at charlycrawfordtraining@gmail.com. When did you start working here?
2010.
So
July,
5 years after the fire?
July 2nd, 2010.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. That's fascinating that Lane Frost was an endorsee of American Hats. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That was fascinating.
The hat he wore in Cheyenne on that day was an American hat. Yeah.
So when you started working here in 2010, I've heard a lot of you talked about Keith Maddox and kind of a mentor of yours in a way.
Yeah.
Talk about him.
Yeah. I can't say enough good things about him. He was not perfect. I'm not saying that, but sometimes when somebody dies, we have a tendency to put him up on a pedestal. But he was fun. He had mastered the law of attraction, so people were attracted to him. I remember when I went out, like to do some trunk shows and other things. I mean, it wouldn't be nothing for a guy to say, "Hey, you work for Keith Maddox?" I go, "Yep, I do." "Oh, God, he's one of my best friends." I said, "Let's get a picture." We'd take a picture together. I'd come back and I say, "Hey, Keith, I met so-and-so, one of your best friends." He goes, "Who is it again?" But in that guy's mind, Keith was one of his best friends because they had done something together or spent an evening together somewhere. And Keith left an impression on him. But, so if you were at a banquet and you wanted to sit at somebody's table, you want to sit at Keith's table. Now, I got to stand corrected a little bit on that because at the time I thought it was the fact that you want to sit at Keith's table. And now after Keith's been gone, I realize now it's probably you want to sit at Susan's table. Susan is the fun. So, and I was concerned. I'll be honest with you, and I'll say it on the podcast. I was concerned. Okay, well, now my friend is gone and he's the guy that I work for. And now I've got to, do I want to work for his wife? And how's this going to go? And am I going to get micromanaged? And honestly, working for Susan probably has been even better than working for Keith.
That's amazing.
Yes, she's not afraid. She's not afraid of anything. Keith was very conservative. Oh, we can't afford that. We can't do that. That's way too much money. And Susan's like, shit, let's go for it. And she just,
she has that presence about her.
I keep her in the loop. I keep her in the boat. Anytime we got a big decision that comes up, I go, here's the situation and here's what I think. And I can't think of a situation where she said, oh, no, we don't want to do that. We would talk it through and then she'd go, yeah, let's do it. Or let's ask him for that or ask him for this. And if you put yourself in her position for just a minute. So here, her husband dies in 2019, the end of 2019. And I always said he had perfect timing, and 2020 COVID hits. And I'll never forget the day that I had to tell this factory out here, hey, they're shutting us down for the month of March. And I saw women who started to cry because they're, a lot of our people here, this is not a huge affluent community. I mean, we have people that are living paycheck to paycheck. And I had to stop them and say, whoa, hang on a second, hang on, let me hear the rest of the story. Susan has made the decision to pay everyone here at the factory. So you're going to go home and every Friday you're going to get a check. And so what happened during that whole time, our customer service manager, we have 3 doors you can get in this building. So our customer service manager would come into the front office. Our CFO would come in this middle office and I would come in my office. And we would talk via phone or text, but we didn't, see each other. Mm-hmm. And then when it was time for the employees to come back to the factory, I had to physically go out there and move all of their stations 6 feet apart to make sure that, we were complying with all of the stuff. But Susan was the one who said,
I love that integrity.
We're going to pay him. And we had another salesman who got lung cancer, and they're commissioned only guys. And Keith made the decision that no matter what happens here, he says, we're going to pay that guy. And so it got bad where he couldn't travel, couldn't do anything. He said, keep sending him a commission check. We got to go hire somebody else to run that territory, but keep sending him a commission check. And we did. And then when that guy passed, a friend had brought some ashes here and said that he had requested to have some of his ashes spread out here in the front yard at American Hat Company. So that was quite an honor. But that's the kind of guy Keith Miller.
That's the thing that I think people love to hear, is a company that takes care of their own. Right. That's what I loved so much about Classic Rope with Ken and B. Bray. When the factory burnt down at Equibrand,
same kind of people
continuing to keep paying their employees until everything came back. And that's stand up stuff. I'd heard so much good stuff about him. Being out there on the Rancheros ride out there, and I don't remember meeting him, if I had, but
you'd remember.
Yeah, so I'm guessing I didn't, but just the stories that I heard out there, just what he did and how he touched so many people's lives, because that's where I've heard it so much, was out there, just the positive and what he did for so many people, and he lived a heck of a life, didn't he? Yeah,
he did. He had, and so I had a Tad Sanders, a friend. At one time we sat down, and he said, the thing that I admire about you the most is you have a zest for life. Mm-hmm. And so if you're going to live your life with a zest for life. And I'll tell you a couple of quick stories about him. So when I came to work for him, the positive times was his mantra. So he said, okay, how are we going to do this? Because I don't have the money to do a bunch of TV. There wasn't TV at the time. I don't have money to do a bunch of ads and magazines and stuff. I go, we're going to do social media. Social media was just coming on strong. And he goes, social media, how's that going to work? I said, it's free. And I said, we'll give something away every day. And he goes, well, I don't know. I can't afford to give something away every day. And I go, well, yeah, we can. And he goes, well, what are we going to give away that I can afford? I said, every morning we're going to put a positive thought on our social media. And so his oldest daughter, Treasure Maddox, was working for Jimmy Choo in New York City at the time. So we hired Treasure, because now she's on the East Coast. We hired Treasure to come up with a positive saying every morning and to get that posted. So by the time we woke up, it was there waiting on us. And I can't tell you how many people, and it's still our recipe to this day, but I can't tell you how many people have said, man, my wife had breast cancer. We were going through treatments. And he said, every morning, that was the first thing we looked for. And so we didn't ask anybody to give us anything, or we weren't telling somebody 20% off, limited time, buy a hat.
We're trying to sell nothing.
We weren't trying to sell anything. We're trying to give something away. And that was what he wanted to do. So when he died, his brand was that plus and that X.
So everyone that sees a sticker on the back of an American hat,
that's Keith Maddox's
Positive
brand.
Times.
That's his brand. And so I told Susan, I said, I don't know, it might last for a couple months or whatever, because like a police officer dies and they put a, black armband around their badge or something, or around their arm, or a football player, they put a number on their helmet or whatever.
Jersey
and then it goes away. And so I thought this might last a few months or whatever. But with COVID, because again, his timing was always perfect. He got out of here before the COVID hit. He didn't want to put up with that. And so
my dad did too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so then, but his message was positive times. And it's a biblical principle to renew your mind daily. And so I went and did something pretty extreme for me. I had on the inside of my forearm a tattoo, and it says, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much room. And then it says Hat King plus X. And so that reminds me every day to get out on the edge, to push. Complacency and cancer are both deadly. So we're fighting complacency. We never want to be complacent about what we're doing here, and about his mantra of positive times. That has become the North Star for our company. So when I'm looking for a direction to go or a decision to face with something, I really gravitate towards the positive,
Well, and it's a great conversation piece, because I get it all the time at the airport. Like, what is that sticker? What it is? Positive times. Oh, okay. Now I see the pod X. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
And so it creates it catches out. It's a question starter. And then also, like, say, what better way to capture a question than be looking at a cowboy hat? And so I like it. I loved it all the way around for what it worked out to be. And like say, now it's there. It wasn't a flash in the pan. It's still there.
No. And then we've had dealers try to sell those stickers. And so we've actually gone online and posted, said, the memory is not for sale. These stickers are not for sale. We do not sell them. However, if you will send us a self-addressed stamped envelope, and that, not everybody knows what that means. That means take an envelope, put your name and everything on it, put a stamp on it, and then put that inside another envelope and mail it to us, and we will send you the stickers. And so this is this is just the stack of hatch requests for today.
That's awesome.
On Monday, it was like that.
I love it, though.
Yeah. And so every day we get those requests, and every day we have a gal in our front office that sends out free hat stickers.
Love it.
And so, small way of us.
It's a good way to give back. Yeah, for sure.
Give back. And
so you guys were kind of out of the industry as far as rodeo for a long time, but then you were able to get in. I know there's been a few I've seen where cinch was kind of similar. Kind of because the PRCA for the longest time had exclusivity.
Sure.
Correct. And so you guys were able to, now, or you have athletes now being able to wear your product and things like that. So how did some of those, because I think you were part of, was you with Cinch when they got through, or no?
No, I wasn't with Cinch.
But you was with American Hats. Yeah. That's a hard thing to kind of punch through. What was some of the things that kind of pushed you guys to get in there, and then how? We still
don't have full, we can't put patches on people's shirts. I only get 12 guys that can wear an American hat on your embroidery on your shirt. There's 12.
Gotcha.
And so, but the PRCA has been very good about allowing that positive time sticker to stay on the hats because they realize we're not selling anything with that. We're giving something away.
That's good.
And the world of rodeo wants to participate in that positive message. So they've been great about not taking the positive time sticker off, but they have at points in time want to take the American sticker off. But, you know, more and more, the more they get overwhelmed with it, the more they go, okay, now I got 30 guys wearing American hats here, and I got to go take stickers off. I ain't doing it. You know, I just
create more work for themselves than it's worth.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. So
I thought one of the most interesting gambles I thought on both sides. One, the gamble that you guys kind of took with Dale Brisby, and then you gave him a challenge, kind of in a trade. I enjoyed that story because Dale's an interesting figure and a very phenomenal person, in my opinion. For one, to be able to do what he's done for this long it's amazing, and also what he's done for this industry. You know, I mean, to be on Joe Rogan, to Netflix. I mean, you can go down the line of things that this guy's done, and it's amazing what he's done for the industry. But I enjoyed the story of when you guys were talking about the hats.
Yeah. So the first time I had met him, he was wearing, you know, cut-off sleeves and irrigation boots. And I told Keith, I said, hey, I want to do something with this guy. This guy's off the it's a spoof. He's making, you know, he's spoofing it. He's not, that's not really him. He's got a wig on. And Keith goes, oh, I don't know about all that. I'm not sure. And so Keith was kind of, I'm not sure we want to do this. So it wasn't until Dale showed up at our booth at NFR, and both Keith's daughters, Mercedes and Treasure Maddox, said, hey, can we get a picture? Come over here, Dale Brisby. So they got pictures with him. Keith goes, what the heck's that all about? And I said, I told you, this guy's attracting younger people to our sport. Keith goes, all right, do what you want to do. And so Dale came up here and we had in our containers out here, we had some hats that were very tall crown, short brim, out of style, back to the urban cowboy days, ghillies and so on and so forth. And so I was looking for a home for those hats and we would never get rid of them, but I just thought, man, what happened to that come back around? Anyway, so Dale's in the factory one day getting a hat. And I said, hey, would you ever consider the thought of maybe wearing one of these? I said, kind of throwback deal. And at first he said, oh, I don't know. I don't think I can pull it off. And we made him up one. And then he said, I don't know, maybe it would be good. And so we basically said, let's make you up 5 styles, 4 styles, whatever, tall crown, short brim. And then we went back into the ribbon. We had some ribbon that went back to the 70s. And I said, you pick the ribbon, you design them, you tell us what you want, and we'll put a shape on them, and we're not going to make up a bunch of them, but what we'll do is we'll take pictures of them, you put them on your website, see if something sells, just fish with it. So we did that, and I'll never forget, I was at Rancheros in California, and my CFO from here calls and says, hey, we got a problem. And I said, what's that? She says, Dale Brisby turned his website on today, and he just sold 633 of those hats. I went, what? 633? Are you sure? She said, yep. So I said, well, why is that a problem? We're in the business of selling hats. And she said, well, they're in containers. We don't even have them. They're not even inside the factory. I said, well, I get somebody and go get them out of the containers. So that doesn't sound like a problem. Sound like a good thing to happen. It was a little bit of a problem because we had to shift some gears and run around and get some things done. But
selling hats.
Yeah, selling hats.
Move product. He can
selling
move
hats.
it. It's a following that it's crazy, the following.
And what he has done, if you were to the guy could really write a book on branding. Unfortunately, what he has done defies all of the laws of branding. Every branding book you'd ever want to read, all the big, Procter & Gamble, everything. he has defied every rule of branding and made it work.
How did he defy it?
Well, so, just starting to make fun. Okay, so this guy, people don't know this about him, but he was a day working cowboy. I mean, the 4-6s would hire him to come in and brand with them. He's a cowboy. He's a real deal, honest to goodness cowboy. But here he, come out and said, world's greatest bull rider, world's greatest this, so, and the real guy is not that. That's counter to his personality. And, when he started, he wore a wig, and now that's his real hair. But I'll never forget, his wife and him came here, and he came in costume. And we have a guy in our factory that actually let his hair grow long because he was such a Dale Brisby fan. And he was freaking out because Dale Brisby was here. And then we went to eat lunch at the same place you and I just ate lunch at. And he came in without the wig and all the other stuff on. And I said to his wife, I said, oh, what happened to Dale Brisby? What? She goes, I married so-and-so. I didn't marry Dale Brisby. And I was like, oh, my gosh, this got to be hard on you.
You have to flip the switch.
Hard on you, I married this guy, and now it's that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that guy's the opposite of that guy.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting role.
Right. And so, but he's just spoofing or making, you ain't no cowboy, and you read some of the comments from some, dude in his grandma's basement that said, man, that long hair, you're not a cowboy either. You're just a phony, whatever. And then to hear him, respond to that, not in anger, but in humor, he's phenomenal. And I think his humor cracks me up unbelievably. And I'll just a few things that he has said to me over the years that I've just died laughing at. We National High School Rodeo, we all went to that, and him and his crew stayed at a motel. I don't know what the name of it was, but I called it Shots Fired because they had drug deals going on in the parking lot. It was the kind of place where you back your truck up to the door, and we were staying at a home to suites, and this one Keith wasn't feeling very good, and so him and Susan left a little early. And he goes, do you want me to give up that room or do you want me to keep it? Do you need it for somebody? I go, yeah, I might call Dale and see if he needs a room. So I called Dale and his wife and some of his crew, and I said, we got an extra room if you want. And Dale goes, man, I need it. My wife ain't too happy with the place I picked. He said, I stepped over $1 to pick up a dime. And so we took him to dinner to Armando's Mexican restaurant and had a great evening. And, he doesn't drink or anything. He's just pretty straight-laced. And so after that was all over, we went back, and their room was right across the hall from Terry and I's room. And so I said, y'all going to get out here early in the morning? They go, yeah, we're going to be out here about 4:00 in the morning. They had a flatbed pickup truck out in the parking lot. They were going to make their way back to Texas. And I said, well, I'm probably not going to be 4. It'll be, 6, 7 for me, but I'll see you back in Texas. When I got up to get ready to leave, they're still here. So I call, and he don't answer his phone. So I call his wife, and I go, you guys okay? She said, yeah, we're okay. And I said, well, what happened? She said, he's been sick. He's got food poisoning. She said, he has been in the bathroom going both ends for hours. And I said, oh, my gosh, can I get you guys anything? She said, no, I went and got this and that and everything. And I said, what's he saying? He said, well, last time I heard him throwing up, he said, Armando's is not ready to franchise.
I could hear it in that voice too.
Yeah, and then I said something to the effect of, well, remember, laughter's always the best medicine. He said, it's not if you have diarrhea.
I tell you what, that guy's wit, man, is so sharp.
Oh,
so sharp. It's a gift.
It is a gift, and his timing's perfect. He's not a stand-up comedian, but just
how he's made it. I mean, golly, the Netflix. I mean, one of the more impressive ones, in my opinion, was Joe Rogan.
Yes,
was able to get on Joe Rogan, and how many eyeballs did people get to see just off that?
Yeah.
And to be able to keep that role going for this long and still staying relevant and he's just as good now as he's ever been.
Oh, it gets better, I think. It's like a fine wine getting better. Now he's doing
Sharp
podcasts.
His podcasts are great.
I love his podcast. I love he did one with Trevor Brazil that cracked me up because he said, "Now, Trevor, you've been ghosting me for a while." And Trevor said, "Well, I avoid these things." And he says, "And I've had several people ask me to be on podcasts." But I thought, well, I've been putting you off for a couple of years. I better come do it, And so he said, I got a couple of questions here. They go back a ways, so they might be back to, when you and Patrick were roping and whatever. He said, but these are questions from your fans. And he looked at one. He said, is it hard when you're, is it hard to grow when you're always in the shade of Patrick Smith?
It was from Patrick Smith, right?
It didn't say who it's from, but and then Trevor is as witty as they come, as quick as they come. Yes. And Trevor says, "Well, you don't follow rodeo much, do you?"
I tell you what, there's one guy that I could say that'd be able to bring out that personality, and it's Dale, because what people don't realize is Trevor stays so sharp and professional. But he's the funniest guy, but he doesn't let everyone see that. He's one of the funniest guys I've ever been around. Exactly. And the funnest guy I've ever been around.
Exactly right. Yeah. Exactly right. That's a hidden secret.
He's able to get that out of him.
Oh my gosh. It was a hilarious podcast. And so, just some of the stuff that comes out and, now but he just did a thing with Terry Bradshaw.
I think I seen the one that came out. Yeah.
And it was funny because he's in the barn with Terry Bradshaw's hucking it up with him and they're laughing and whatever. And Terry Bradshaw's, all right, now get the heck off my place, and Dale's walking away and he's got the phone, kind of looking, I think he's serious. I think he needs me to leave. But his timing is none better.
Yeah.
And he's not, he'll kind of get out on the edge a little bit and, there was one little thing. He's got some, I don't know what's the correct term now. Smaller people. Can we say that? Can we say that now? I mean,
I don't know.
I think now that Trump is back in, I think we can say midgets again. But anyway,
I've heard a midget say midget, so I mean, I think it's okay.
Well, anyway, and so he's had some of them on his thing.
Oh yeah, because he has kind of a mentorship or an internship.
Yeah.
And teaching people how to ride bulls and stuff like that,
and
right?
He's got a couple of littler people on some of his deals, and golly, like the one thing was this guy had an antler that he had found of a shed from a deer, and it's big, it's 2-3 feet long, and the little guy looking up at Dale, and he said, "Hey, look what I found." He hands it to Dale, and the camera cuts to Dale. He's got it in his hands, only about 2 or 3 inches long. He goes, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah, that's having some time out there, probably day work, and going, I think this would work. Because he talks about being able to do stuff from the neck down.
Oh,
how good it is being able to just go do stuff from the neck down every once in a while.
And so he's what people don't know is he is a hand.
Yeah, cowboy.
Yeah, he's a cowboy. I mean, and so his dad was a cowboy. He grew up being a cowboy. This is all he knows, and he has taken that. I asked him. I said, "Well, how did this kind of get started? The whole Radiator Ranch and all that stuff." He said, "Well, he said I did a prank call to my dad. Have you heard this story?" Yeah,
it's a great story.
Yeah,
Go
ahead. I prank called to my dad like I'm the radiator shop here in town, and the radiator for your ranch truck is ready, and you need to come down and pick it up, and you owe me $100. Because he knew his dad would go, "Hey, Dale, I don't remember that truck needed a new radiator, but the guy says it's ready. Would you go get it?" And the dad gives him $100. So now he's $100 ahead. And 2 days later, he says, I got the radiator put in. It's all good, So then he started doing prank calls.
Was that Larry D guy? Remember there was one. How big a boy? Roy D. Mercer.
Roy D. Mercer.
How big a boy are you?
Yeah.
So that kind of what got him started then.
Yeah. So he did some prank calls.
Because that's what I heard. The story was pretty funny in the fact of he's like, he didn't know it was me.
Right.
His dad didn't know it was him.
Right.
And he's the one calling it.
Yeah. And then he did the wig thing, and his dad wasn't sure who he was with the wig thing.
So he just kept on going with it.
And his dad was like, "Who the heck is this long-haired idiot?" And just kept it going. And but again, if you would have wrote the script down and said, here's what I want to do and here's where I'm going to end up, you'd have said, impossible. Never be able to do it. And this guy's pulled it off.
Well, he's got to be every sponsor's dream, to think of that guy sitting right next to Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan's got an American hat on his head in front of millions of people.
He just called and said, I need a hat for Joe Rogan. So what size is it? I'm not sure.
Only person that could pull that off. So it's been really impressive when you look at it, of the industry, what he's done. It's been phenomenal.
Great. He's also a fantastic human being.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm more interested in what's under the hat than, what's under.
I've only met him a couple times. The one time I met him was at the summit that you guys had.
Oh, yeah. That was fun.
So that was one of the things to me that really meant a lot to me. And so what I mean by that is I've had sponsors a lot in the past, and that was one of the first times where it felt like a company was investing in their endorsees. And what I mean by that, we had a photo shoot one day, and then you brought us all to where they have the Cowboy Channel at the stockyards in that little, what used to be the sale barn.
Yeah.
And
theater seating, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And brought us all in, and you guys brought in people to basically talk to us about how to present yourself, how to market yourself, so you brought in all these different people. You brought in people that were journalists. Hey, when we're doing interviews, this is what we're looking for. You brought in Dale Brisby. Hey, if you're wanting to market yourself, this is how some social media works. Get a hold of me for any questions you have. And I've talked to him before and talked about some things I had going on. But what I loved was, you brought in guys that were able to talk about certain things that if we were looking to invest our money, into something else besides horses, to where we had some retirement. One of the ones I loved was, if somebody's interviewing you and you can tell maybe they're looking to get a story to go a certain direction, you can acknowledge the story, but then you can change it, because that's really good for team ropers. You got to think, hey, is this the best partner you've ever had? Oh man, this is a great partner. We get along so good, but you can't say he's the best partner you ever had, because now look at all the partners you've already had, and so
disrespected.
It was really good to where it showed you how to kind of keep yourself out of unwanted spotlight in a way. And so I told Jackie, I said, you know what, that was really cool. That to me, I've never seen where they've investing in their endorsees and help and trying to truly help them. But the one that I remembered that just to this day stood out was when John Baxter come walking down them steps and just owned the summit.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you guys saved him at the end.
Yeah,
because you couldn't follow that.
He was the closer. I've seen him do it before, and so he was our closer. I knew what he would do. I've seen him do that. I don't know, quite a few times. And when you're in a room full of college football players that are USC or Michigan, and you're I'm going to say an 18 to 24-year-old young man full of testosterone thinking you're going to go to the NFL and potentially from a non-affluent community, and you got to own that room. Man, that's, talk about a tough room. That's a tough room. But he was in the same room with a bunch of people that he really respected at Gold Buckles. And it might have been J.C. Mortensen that was sitting in the back.
When he come walking down that steps with the amount of confidence he had, you just like, what in the world is this little tornado doing walking out there, and just got his chest puffed out and said, all right, guys right here. Yeah, whoever he called up there.
J.C. Morton.
He said, yeah, bull rider up there, J.C. Morton. He said, yeah, you come on down here. He said, only sheep's hanging out in the back, wolves hanging out in the front. I mean, he just had your attention right off the bat. High energy and just, captivated the room. It felt like I was back in a locker room again.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
But just watching how he presented himself, talking about everything with such passion, your eyes just couldn't help but just stay on him the whole time. And what I loved was when he was talking about the best hat store, making it Disneyland.
Yeah. He said, when you think about the people that walk through the front doors of the best hat store, he said, their eyes are big. He said, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm in Texas and I'm at the best hat store. And he said, you guys got to realize that to some of these people that are coming from another state, this is Disneyland. put on your freaking bunny hat and make it Disneyland. You
put on your mouse ears and freaking sell this thing as
make,
Disneyland.
Make it Disneyland. You know,
Mickey freaking Mouse.
They're here to buy a hat, and you have to make that an experience for them. And so if you'll look closely when you walk out of the Best Hat Store, above the door it says NOW. And it doesn't mean now. It means no one walks. If somebody walks in, walks around, and tries to walk out, it's their job to intercept them and say, man, we're sorry. Hang on. Did we not find what you need? I got more in the back, you know. And so if you say, no, there's nothing I'm interested in here, obviously you can go. But it says the Best Hat Store. It doesn't say the best coffee store. It doesn't say the best hair care products. It doesn't say boots. And it doesn't say, you know, jeans. So you walked in there, you were thinking about buying a hat. And so it's their job to greet the person, acknowledge that you're there, and then it's their job to not say, can I help you? Those are words that will get you fired. Can I help you? That is the kiss of death, because then the customer says, nope, just looking, and now you're on the bench. And so, can I help you is not an acceptable phrase at that store. You know, you know, we're looking for a way to engage you. You know, even if it's something you've got, you know, a shirt or whatever. Hey, where'd you get that shirt? That's cool. I like that. Or, you know, hey, where you guys from? You know, welcome to Best Hat Store. So that's all acceptable. But can I help you? Nope. You have to engage them in a conversation initially. So those guys are conversationalists. That's their specialty. I know that I remember I took NFR. We had one of the best hat shapers there, and I took a guy that used to come every year, and he bought a 1000X hat first thing in the morning, first day. And we had one of our guys there, Danny, who it was his first time shaping for us at the NFR. And I'll never forget, I took this guy over to Danny, and I said, oh, hey, Danny, this is so-and-so, and, you know, he's buying this 1000X hat, shape him up really good, make it look nice. And the guy looked at Danny, and said, how long have you been shaping hats, kid? And Danny says, well, 14 more days, it'll be 2 weeks. And broke the ice, you know. And so it's having the gift of gab, being able to tell a story. It's about an experience. You can come in there, and if you're of age, they'll give you a beer. They've got football, or they got rodeo on the TV. It's a place that we want people to come to, you know, have that hat experience. And I would love to have a camera right outside the door. And if they mouthed the words, wow, that would be, okay, there's a success, because that's the goal every day at the Best Hat Store.
How much do you think when Baxter came in, it kind of changed the culture with kind of what he's seen and how to kind of interact after that?
Yeah, lots. I mean, he causes you to think outside the box.
I remember you told me how much that kind of really changed the perspective. You know, you think about different states, not only that, probably different countries. When they come to the Best Hat Store.
He, you know, I met him on Rancheros. And just by happen chance, we were sitting next to each other at a campfire, and you know, introduced himself, and I said, "What do you do for a living?" He said, "I'm a football coach." I said, "Oh, cool. Any place I'd know?" And USC, Fresno State, and I go, "Oh my gosh, yeah, we are a football coach." And I want to talk about football. He wanted to talk about, hey, what do you do? And I said, I'm in the hat business, and so. Immediately, he handed me his hat. He says, tell me all about my hat. Tell me about this hat. And it was a pretty bad hat. And I felt it, and I looked at it, and I said, here. I said, Coach, man, it's got the beautiful buckle set. I really like the buckle set. And he goes, oh, no, you ain't doing that to me. Tell me about the hat. And I said, you know, I've got a rule. I said, I never denigrate anybody's hat. I said, but, I mean, it's a beautiful buckle set. I love that. And he goes, what about the shape? And I said, well, you know, I'm going to go back to the buckle set. You know, I like the buckle set, and so I'm not going to say. So I said, and he goes, all right. I see where this is going. You're not going to talk about my hat. Tell me about your hat. And so I did, 45 minutes on my hat. And he goes, holy crap, I had no idea that much went into a hat. And I said, that's obvious after looking at your hat. And we just became fast friends. And so we started talking about interesting things, that what I find interesting, things like reticular activation. So he holds up place cards, pictures, when the players are out there. And like there's one that is a leopard, like just staring intently. And so you're looking at the leopard's eyes when he holds it up there. And that really means disciplined eyes make disciplined feet. And so, and so the players know disciplined eyes make disciplined feet. So they're being disciplined with their eyes. And like he'll tell you, holding is not a penalty of the hands, it's a penalty of the feet. Your feet were in the right place. So, but he's an inspirational figure, so he did a thing called the academic game plan. So
This is my fourth one this year.
Me too.
I love it. I don't go nowhere without it.
Me either. I got mine right here. And so right there. He was, it disturbed him that they had players that, so he said, my livelihood is dependent upon you. And you got to get a passing grade so you can play in the game. And at Friday or Saturday night, they're going to blow the whistle at 7 o'clock. That ball's going to go in the air, and we got to be ready. It's not tomorrow. We got to do it now today. And so he does a thing with his incoming players, and he'll ask them, anybody here know the magic number? Magic number, anybody? And, invariably somebody will say, well, it's 11, coach, because I'm the quarterback. No, it ain't 11. So he has a whiteboard and he writes 168 up at the top. And he said, how many hours do we spend a day at football practice? He said, I know the number. So he writes that number up there. How many hours a day do you guys go to school? Do you attend class? And he said, I already know because y'all taking the minimum. So writes that number up there. He said, I'm going to assume everybody in this room spends 3 hours a night, 5 nights a week studying. So he writes that number up there. And then he goes, anybody here smart enough to tell me what's left over? If you got to pull your phone, pull your phone. And so he then draws a line and he's got to figure it out. So 168 is how many hours there are in a week. And after football, after school, after 3 hours of study every night, 5 nights a week, there's 40 hours left over in a week. He's already done the math. And so he shows them that and he says, all right, so after football, after school, and after study, there's 40 hours left over. All right? Everybody gets 168. President of the United States gets 168. I get 168. Nobody avoids that. Oh, he asks, how many hours a night do you guys sleep? Throws that up there too. Bottom line is, he said, there's 40 hours left over after we do all of those things, so you have time for a full-time job. You're leaking oil, and I'm going to find it. That's my job. And I'm going to stop the oil leak. And so, if you're sitting there as a incoming freshman, you got to be thinking, or I've signed on to something pretty amazing here. He does another interesting thing with a tape measure. He'll ask one of the coaches, how old are you, coach? Coach say, 78 or 79 years old. He said, take this tape measure and go down there and hold it 79 feet down there. So guys way down there. And then he takes, from 1 to 18 and throws it on the ground. And he says, you come here and hold it at 18. And here's another one. You hold it at 22. He said, what you guys do, so they're like 4 feet apart. He says, what you guys do in the next 4 years will determine what you look like when you're 79 feet down the road. So that's why I'm telling you, study, get good grades, and apply yourself. You've got a 4-foot opportunity here, and you better take advantage of it. If you don't, you probably ain't going to look that good when you're down there at 79 feet. So that's a great visual if you're a college football player that say, man, I've got a heck of an opportunity, but the window is very short.
Very small.
Very smart.
Yeah, he had a lot of really cool visuals like that. And the way he held everyone's attention was phenomenal. He's got a very great gift. I enjoyed the one where he talked about the first thing that goes out in an athlete is his legs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you think about the same thing with horses.
Yep.
You know, the horses that work really good, they've got the knowledge, but their feet slow down.
Yeah.
You know, it's in everything.
Foundation.
And so it's very, very, very interesting perspective.
Yeah.
And just, like I said, man, to be able, you could tell he was so used to being able to hold people's attention. I loved it. His communication was phenomenal. Yeah. But yeah, those, what are those daily planners called? The academic?
It's called the Academic Game Plan.
Yeah.
And so,
I order them from his wife every year.
Yeah, Jill
I love them.
Yeah.
They have just enough room for everything, but I love the stuff where you're able to watch, you know, you're able to structure your month, then you can turn it back, and then you can structure your week and then your hour.
Mm-hmm.
You can really, really get a lot of stuff done if you're talking about time management, because there's only so much time to be able to utilize that the best way. And I love how he breaks it all down and gives you plenty of room to write stuff down.
Right. Well, and that's what he needed, you know, so he, again, was, you know, he said, I get mad because he said we'd lock players in a room with put proctors at the door and tell them to study. And he said, but we didn't, you know, there was no coaching on how to study. But when you go to the football field, man, we had cameras everywhere. We had them up in the air. We had them, you know, towers, and we were nuanced. I mean, it was your first step needs to be here, not there. Mm-hmm. And he said, we did that for him on the football field. And it's called a student athlete, not athlete student. And he said, but we weren't paying attention to the student part. Mm-hmm. So he teaches how to take notes, how to listen to a lecture, and how to pull out the hype. He's just a phenomenal human being.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of my, probably one of my best friends on the planet.
And I really enjoyed you guys bringing him to us at that summit. Like I said, that was a game changer for a lot of perspectives and things that I was doing at the time, and it meant a lot to me. It was really cool.
One of my little pet peeves is all of a sudden, okay, so I remember Fred Whitfield with Cinch. So Fred did a lot for the brand. I mean, he did a lot for our brand. He was, you know, kind of the face of the brand. Cody Ole, another one. And so how do we, when they retire and go on to do something else, what do we do? How do we treat them? Do we just discard them and say, okay, thanks, dude, you hit a certain age and you're retiring, so appreciate everything. Good luck. Hope things work out. And so I remember, like with Cody Ole, we invested in a bowl. At Cinch, we invested in a bowl with Cody to maybe help him, go to that next thing, because he was buying some bucking bowls. And then with Fred, he had mentioned that he maybe wanted to do some motivational speaking. So, I just looked up some agents and tried to get him connected in motivational speaking. But my pet peeve is how Hollywood portrays the rodeo cowboy, the Woody Harrelson character, dead broke on the side of the road with your hood up, drinking a beer, waiting for somebody to come help you. And that's not it at all. When you look at the likes of, you and Jackie and how you guys travel and look at your, your place and, what you have investment in horses and arenas and cattle and equipment. And I mean, you guys aren't dead broke on the side of the road. Now, most rodeo cowboys I know kind of have to hustle because you pay your own way. And when you win, you do well. And when you don't win, the things start stacking up. But it's then how do you transition from your rodeo career to the next thing? Mm-hmm. And as a sponsor, I didn't want to just dump you off on the side of the road and say, hey, thanks for all the help.
No, I appreciate that.
We're going on. And
because that's what it showed. I mean, that's exactly what it showed, because when Coach was in there, he was talking about how to invest. He was talking about how to put your money in a certain spot. He was talking about, I think, the power of 72.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep.
And
yep. Compounding. Yep.
Yeah, compounding and all those things. And it's like, man, this is a very small cliff note on what I wished I would have heard at 18. And I'm looking back, I think I've seen some other kids. I'm like, yeah, you guys really, like, no kidding. This is stuff that we all wished we would have heard at a young age. So the investment you guys gave into us, I really appreciated that.
Oh, it was our pleasure. We, when you're 18 and you're making, some pretty decent dough, you think it'll never end. And then when you're 40, you're thinking,
when it ends,
golly, what did I do?
Yeah.
I can remember doing that specifically with Tough Cooper as a young guy. And then when COVID hit, I can remember calling Tough Cooper and saying, because I don't pay Tough Cooper monthly. I pay him one time end of the year because he has a little royalty deal and so on. And so don't pay him monthly. We pay him one check at the end of the year. And so I said, hey, Tough, COVID, rodeos are shut down. If you need us to pay you monthly, let me know and I'll pay him. He go, oh, I'm glad you called because I wanted to call because I know you guys are going to be shut down for 30 days there. He said, I'm not going to, if the rodeo thing gets shut down, he says, I'm not going to go to rodeo. So don't pay me this year. And I go, no, it don't work like that. And he said, well, I've got enough that I'm okay. So I can go a couple of years without. And I'm like, good for you.
Absolutely.
Good for you.
Absolutely.
And he is one that we've had many, many conversations about what's next. And so even as a young man, he said, I don't want my roping career to be the highlight of my life. Think about how profound that is.
That's a strong one.
That's a strong one. I don't want my roping career to be the highlight of my life. So,
yeah, because that's what every athlete, I think, when that time comes, it's a tough transition.
Tough deal. And, not everybody does it as successful as you have. I was sure happy to see your website and all the clinics and, you've parlayed the thing that you do very, very well. And now you're showing other people how to do that thing very, very well. And, coach, which is what you are, to a lot of these guys, these military guys, with all the clinics and stuff. But if you think about the word coach is a term of endearment. It really, really is. And so, because I asked Coach Baxter, I said, is it okay if I call you coach? He goes, absolutely. Coach is a term of endearment. Are you kidding me? And I said, he said, a coach is a guy that'll take you to a place you can't take yourself. And so that's what you're doing for the guy that's trying to learn it and do it in his backyard, kind of figure it out on his own. You go, no. There's the nuance of it. You need to be here, not here.
Yeah. And I appreciate that because, like I say, a lot of the creativity I got was on that summit. We got to meet you guys, got to talk about all the things, and got to meet Dale Brisby, got to talk different things about, what he would look at. Because I brought him all right there of kind of what I'd been writing down my last couple of years rodeoing, where I think I could kind of take some things in between, Dale and Coach and, all that stuff. There was a lot of great ideas in that room. It was one of the things that helped kind of get my stuff started.
And you're doing it. I mean, I just got to get a good look at your website today. It's, first class, top notch all the way. Tells where you're going to be, what you're going to be doing. And so if a guy wants to learn how to rope, I can tell you where to go.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, so I see you guys got a new product maybe coming out, being able to put your hat in certain things.
We
Still
do.
kind of in the works a little bit?
Yeah, no, it's done. It's done. We bought a company. It's called Cowboy Cases, or we bought it from no, God, I lost her name. Star is her first name. Oh man, I got to get this right. But anyway, she had a website, and it was her idea, and so she developed this hat can. She called it the hat can. We're changing the name to the hat case or hat cases. I forget how we're doing it, but anyway, long story short, I bought a bunch of them. I had to haul some hats a couple of different places, and I thought, well, I hate that big plastic thing, to be honest with you. You have to carry it way out to the side. It's clunky. They don't stack on anything.
Can't tell you how excited I am because I fly all the time, stepping on it, or the clunky thing like you're saying, or if I throw it up there, the bag smashing it, all that stuff. So yeah, I'm excited about that new product. Sure.
Yeah. So anyway, so we looked at this thing and we went, okay, there's a few things we'd change. It was a backpack. Well, I have a backpack, so I'm not going to wear two backpacks. So we put a strap on it. So it's more like a rope can, but it holds your hat. Yeah. And it's light. And
it's real light.
And it'll go right over your luggage, the handle on your luggage. And that's what I needed.
Well, and that zipper too on the side of his handy, because I can put my Coach Baxter daily planner in there. Yep. My phone chargers and good to go.
Off you go.
Yep.
So we're excited about it. We should probably get the first batch of those here in a month or so. But we're developing a website right now for it. And when we get them in hand and we look at them and we go, okay, this is what we want to put out, then we will, open up a website and sell them online. But we'll sell them at the Best Hat store.
Awesome.
And then I imagine we'll probably go wholesale with them so that other stores could buy them as well. There's a spot on the front of it where they could put their logo. In the meantime, we're going to put, maybe stick positive times on some. Some might say the Best Hat store. Some might say, Charlie Crawford's, roping clinics. I mean, you put whatever you want on it. I mean, we've kind of made it a generic, kind of a clean slate so that other people could, promote their brand on it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That'll be cool.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to get an American hat? They got to go to the store? Or do you guys got websites you can order it online? Or
we don't sell direct. We
head to Best Hats.
Best Hat store, NRS, great dealer,
Awesome.
Joby's hats here in Fort Worth. I'm trying to think of everybody. Cavender's is a good. So Cavender's is a great distribution point for us. They've got, like 90 some odd stores. So Cavender's, you can get them at Cavender's. Cavender's, Best Hat. If you want to buy a high-end hat, probably got to go to Best or NRS. Cavender's going to carry more straws and more middle of the road in terms of quality, 40Xs. Man, there's all kinds of great dealers. There's Emilio's. Down in near Bernie, Texas, there's Weibel Supply, and so there's just a lot of we don't sell to a lot of small places anymore just because we can't keep up with 30 hats. And I tell people all the time that Joe's Hats, Hair Care, and Toiletries in Petaluma, California, probably not going to have American hats.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Anyways, we that's what we're doing, and we're looking for good retailers. If you got to pay your bill, obviously, and you got to be willing to sell quality. If your theory or your philosophy is I'm going to sell based on price, you're going to be battling the guy at the carnival right until the tilt-a-whirl and the cotton candy and never win that battle. So if you want to talk about quality and show people the quality and be knowledgeable, then that's the kind of dealer we're looking for.
Love it. Well, anybody gets a chance to go to Fort Worth, good stockyards, head in there, the Best Hat. It's a great experience. Hard to get parked, but you'll figure it out.
Yeah. And there's parking across the street there.
Awesome. That part's good to know.
Yeah. By the Sonic there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's enjoyable. Enjoyable little store. I've had some good times in there.
Yeah.
But man, thanks for everything. Thanks for everything you guys do for the industry. Thanks for everything you do for our military and our first responders. And appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Yeah, and thanks for marrying Jackie freaking Crawford.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember her telling me that somebody else, that's probably the best breakaway roper in the world. I go, are you kidding me? You're Jackie freaking Crawford. Quit it, So
well, it's kind of fun walking in here, and everyone's like, when you're introducing me, and I'm like, all right, yeah, this ought to help. I'm Jackie Crawford's husband. Oh, okay, now we know who you are.
Yeah, she is. She's a rock star. You got to be super proud of.
That performance the other day at San Diego was cool.
Yeah,
that was a big win, big stage. That's kind of when that's at its funnest, and that was pretty cool.
That's what she's made for, that big stage where
to be able to have a rope off, at her age and what she's done.
Her age, did you say that?
Against Josie Connor.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You have the girl that's done a great job of paving the way for where it's at, and then you have Josie Connor at I don't know if she's even old enough to drink.
No,
maybe
I don't
20,
think so. Yeah.
maybe, and to see the future and kind of the David and Goliath match right there, it was cool. That was like, man, you couldn't have staged this any better, where you got the young girl coming up and the one who's kind of paved the way. So it was a cool title bout. It was fun to watch.
She was actually the girl that Jackie said, that girl's going to be the best breakaway roper in the world. And I said, you're Jackie freaking Crawford, quit it, But Josie's coming on. So I'm proud to know that we have the matriarch of the breakaway world, and then we have potentially some of the best up and comers. Riley. Oh, not Riley, but Shelby and Josie, and some of the girls coming up, and then Riley Webb. God. I'll never forget watching him win high school rodeo at the Lazy E. I sat there and watched his last run, and I went, "Oh my gosh, he roped like a man among kids." Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's next level.
Yep. The future looks bright.
Yeah, and I love watching Shad. I mean, Shad's a personality.
Oh, personality is if he's an amazing athlete, but he's just energy in the room.
That's right.
I love it.
Right.
When he's around, man, you almost keep up with his energy just being around him.
Yep.
I love
it. Super proud of him and all that he's accomplished. And I mean, there's a lot of them that I just love the group that Stan Reddings helped put together here, and
I agree.
Just going forward.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
Ropers, are you ready to step up your game? My online course, The Basics of Roping, is built for beginners, but packed with tools to help ropers of all levels sharpen their skills. With over 2 hours of instruction, frame-by-frame swing breakdowns, when to turn your hand over to keep your loop open, when and where to let go of your rope so you can get the horns in the middle of that loop, over 15 dummy drills to simulate real-life runs, you'll have everything you need to improve. Go to charlycrawford.training and follow the link under the course tab to get started today.